It's time for your late June update from GD Viperworks. Hello, this is Quincy, and I have a few things to update you. I know it's been about 2 months. However, a lot of the work has been cerebral, if you will. Thinking about how I'm going to do some new things, how I'm going to change some things, and then putting those plans into action. One of these things, let me show you right now. Would you rather have all these rotaries wired up like this, or this, or this? That's a lot of soldering. It's also a bowl of spaghetti when you attach those to your Arduinos. So would you rather have that? Get rid of that garbage. Or would you rather have this? These are from Leo Bodner. They're 12-position rotaries called the BB12. They have their proprietary circuit board on the back. And you attach these to some very neat boards. So kind of getting ahead of myself, instead of using some Arduinos, this is a Leo Bodner BB32. 32 inputs. You can see it has 32 plus grounds, so you don't have to daisy chain anything together. Like on Arduinos, you need to combine a lot of your grounds because there are limited grounds available on the boards. Well, you don't have to do that. You could have individual switches. You can see ground, switch number. The very cool thing about this, combined with this, is unlike an Arduino that I have to program, whether through DCS BIOS or just outright programming it for rotary switches, toggle switches, push buttons, etc., and turning them into HID devices. In other words, they would read as a joystick button on Windows, which I think is the most versatile way to go with a SimPit. But this is already coded as an HID device and joystick buttons. So all you have to do is plug this guy in and let it rip. Plug it into your computer. It will see every position as a joystick button, and you can then bind it within your software. So as if this wasn't cool enough, put that aside, here is another Leo Bodner device. This is the BU0836 X-Ray. So this one basically has the same functions as the other one, the BBI32. Has 32 inputs for digital, switches, push buttons, etc. Those are all the gray blocks. And then it has blue, if you want to make your own joystick. That's for hat switches. And then these are analogs. So you would put your potentiometers in here. As you can see, it has 3 slots. This is also coded as a joystick for push buttons that can be coded directly into whatever software. So it doesn't have to be just multiple aircraft within DCS. You could program this and these buttons and switches to work in anything. Anything that you can bind controls to as a joystick push button. So that is, that's a huge change. So as you can see, I'm cleaning up a lot of Arduinos. I'm getting rid of a lot of them. I'm saving a lot of space. Yeah, it's been a lot of time going from one style Arduino to another Arduino. In other words, DCS BIOS, then changing the chip, using DUAs to do HID, joystick type stuff, and now switching again. However, that kind of spaghetti is going away. This is just so much easier. The other great part about switching over that makes it really easy is I have the breakout boards that are plugged in on top. Well, here's an Uno. So as you've seen in other videos, I have breakout boards on top of my my Megas and my Duas. And those are all wired in to my switches. Well, when I went from Arduino DCS BIOS based to Arduino HID joystick. Basically, I popped this off. I didn't even have to change the wires. But since I already have the wiring harnesses, I just take these out of these breakout boards and I just plug them into these boards. And it doesn't matter where they go. Well, it does depending on the type of switch you're using, but it doesn't matter what number, unlike DCS BIOS. So, huge advantage and a huge change. And it's not really that much more work with the items that I have already wired up, which is about probably 2/3 of my pit. So the plan going forward with this is all inputs, switches, push buttons, rotary encoders, rotary selectors, all the inputs are going to go through these Leo Bodners, so I can use them any way I want. Any of the outputs, such as caution lights, warning lights, indicator lights, such as gear position, gear not in position, engine fire, etc., all those LEDs will be attached through DCS BIOS. And that's because, again, these are for inputs, not for outputs. And the DCS BIOS is probably the easiest way to go about doing that. But I have also learned that what I can do is I can code for example, a master warning switch or light for the Viper. It's actually a caution in the Viper, but thinking about multiple planes. I can code that on whatever pin lights those LEDs. And then right beneath it, let's say an F-18 or an F-15, I can take the specific code for that aircraft and just put it into the program. And same pin number, and depending on what aircraft I'm using, it will just ignore the other stuff because it doesn't mean anything. All right, so that is the quick update there. I'm going to put in an inset photo here of replacing the wiring on my KY58 panel, and you'll see these switches, which mostly all came out of that, and then you'll see what it looks like with these BBI 12s attached to the back. So let's go up to the pit for the rest of our updates. Hey guys, welcome to the flight line, and this is my ship, Rico's bomb truck. All right, let's get back in the cockpit here and let's take a look at some of the other changes. We've completed our cold start and we're up and ready to go. Let's take a look inside the cockpit at some of the new equipment that we have. I had replaced my combination DED, fuel flow indicator, and indexers. That came from Yaheli Simulator. It had failed on me. It kind of gave me problems from the get-go. I loved having it. I loved using it when it worked. But since it's failed, I have taken my indexers from that system and I've reprogrammed them with Arduinos. The camera is currently off because I don't want the screen tracking my head. And this camera here would interfere with that camera. So I'll spare all of you the nausea. All right, so you can see the indexers work here. Noticeable steering's now on. It's off, it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. All right, you get the point. So that works. My fuel flow does not work. I'm trying to get the proper code so I can get that screen to function again. Sometimes it's just better to make things work for yourself. Sometimes if you buy things from smaller vendors that might stop supporting that particular item, and then you're stuck with something that doesn't work. So I recommend doing it yourself if you can. However, if it's a bigger vendor, I definitely recommend going with their products. We've already talked about the SimGears ICP Pro, that uses the actual Dauber switch here. Does add a little extra cost. I also have an ICP LT from them, which was my original, which was absolutely fantastic as well. It just didn't have this particular real switch in it. It's flawless. Well, they've just released, and I've just received the add-on component to that, and it's just in time because my DED did fail. This is now the SimGears DED. So you can see I've already installed it. It comes with a neat bracket that if you purchased one of their ICPs today, and it has a stand that kind of sits in the front of a HUD block, and the piece that it comes with for the DED mount attaches to the back of that stand so that your DED will be mounted just like this to the right side of your ICP. So the Yaheli simulator DED that I had, it was missing some pages and some of the functions. As DCS had upgraded and added functions, Yaheli didn't keep up with it. It was well over a year behind, and I asked if it was going to be updated to add those functions, and the answer I pretty much got was it wasn't really them. I don't know. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes of some of these OLED boxes, but either way, the SimGears one does work. COM1 page, COM2, IFF, here's ACAL. Oh, that's number 9, I didn't want to do that. Here's ACAL. ACAL was one of those pages that did not work at all on the Yaheli simulator. I used to have to look up onto the screen in order to use any functions on that. There were a couple other pages, I don't recall which ones on here, but some of these secondary functions, they just didn't work. I'm pretty sure this worked. I don't think the cruise page worked. And time might not have worked. But either way, this is a great upgrade over that. It's a single unit, and if I didn't already mention, it's available in the amber or green OLED. It's still in beta as far as the DCS software. I guess there's some symbology on here that is not quite right yet, and I do expect that that's going to be fixed soon. And I have found that there is a little bit of a glitch, but I guess I'd attribute that to being a very early firmware. I think I received one of the first ones of these. Let's see if I can get it to do it. Whenever you have a highlighted block, let's see if I can. Where did I do that? I think if I did list, then went back. No, of course now it's going to be fine, right? What would happen is I'd have a highlighted box just like I would on the list page, any of these highlights, and that would remain highlighted as a strip when I'd come back to another page. I found that pressing a few buttons would get rid of it and kind of reset it, but I just think it's related to the early build of this, and it will. I'm definitely confident that that will be resolved with an update to the software and as well as the symbology. So that is that's a great update, guys. I really do recommend their products. They do have a couple more that are coming out soon. I'm still waiting for that TQS, and if it's the quality of these two items right here, and I expect that they will be, of course they will be, it's going to be a great addition to this pit. I just hope that the final design is just a TQS for my purposes to go into a replica pit. So, moving on to one of the next items. I intentionally have not turned this on yet in this startup because I wanted to show this to you. In the past, I had the switches wired up for my CMDS, but I had to get a screen that would fit in here, and that screen is a, I believe it's an OP202i. I've only been able to find those on eBay. So they're about $35 a piece, and it fits perfectly. It's 2 rows of text. You only need one row to fit in here. So let's power this up. These are all Honeywell switches. My go light's ready to go. I've also wired up these LEDs that go in here for the status lights. And let's check the quantities. 60, 60. We don't use these in a block 50. 0 and 0. There's a green piece of theater lighting gel in there to kind of make it green. You could probably use another green in there. It looks a little bluish, but other than that, this functions perfectly well. And in flight, I'll try and get a little short clip of dispensing these and watch the counter go down. And the last thing I want to add to the update, something I've been kind of putting off for a while, the guts of this are from Tech Creations. And I bought his new F-16 brain panel and plugged it in. Had some problems, but I gotta say, Kieran's been extremely helpful with getting his circuit board running. Since I put a lot of effort into the new faceplate, I decided to use mine rather than his. But as you can see, seat's not armed, it's illuminated through there. I did have a post about making this. Maybe it was just a couple of photographs or something, but here it is with the test function. And this is what it looks like. They all light up. Looks pretty darn good. The only difference between my faceplate and his, mine is three-dimensional. It's like the inverse of his. His was a grid, and then the faces of the lights were countersunk into it. And for a more realistic look, I decided to make my own, and they look like individual lights, although they're small pieces that are all attached. Go take a look at one of the posts from earlier about this thing getting milled out and CNC'd and glued together. But I'm absolutely thrilled that that works. All fits perfect. Rico's bomb truck departing Cairo. That's right, folks, Sinai Map. It's a beautiful map. It's another little update. It's not my own personal update, but I figure I might as well mention it while I'm here. I've already seen that the Cairo map has a massive level of detail. And I'm getting excellent frame rates in the multi-thread. But you can't go to the Sinai Map without the gratuitous flyby of the Great Pyramids. So here it is. I highly recommend this map. The other awesome update recently was also the F-15C Strike Eagle. Yeah, it's a great aircraft. I know, it's kind of weird flying it in a F-16 pit. And especially when the viewports haven't been added to the module yet. Although soon I will be able to access those MPDs, whatever they call them in this particular aircraft, in my Viper SimPit. And again, this is why I'm switching over my boards from straight Arduino with DCS BIOS and switching it to the Leo Bodners, so I can do things in this aircraft as well, and it's absolutely beautiful. So if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you have. Yeah, it's really loud outside the aircraft, isn't it? Yeah, she's beautiful. All right, enough of that. We've seen enough. All right, once again, back in flight here. The last thing I want to showcase for you, I've already announced it through some photographs and the installation. I think with a short video, and if not, just kind of a photo or two. So the last thing is a kind of a game changer. Since this is not a full motion simulator and never will be, the next best thing is to add a butt kicker. I found that it's a little finicky sometimes. It does make a little bit of noise, so you know, it might piss off your wife. Yeah, it kind of does. Especially when you're using the guns. Alright, so guns. You can actually hear it, and that is the butt kicker that I can feel. Of course, I can't project that you can feel it, but you can hear it, and it's pretty darn cool. There's so many features to what you can feel. I'm starting to buff it right now because I'm pulling some G's, and I could feel that buffet onset. Gear comes up, gear goes down. If I fire any missiles, you'll feel them come off the rails. It's great when you drop bombs because you know you dropped them. You'll just hear the clunk, 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 clunk as you feel it. You probably heard that missile. You might have heard that clunk. Try it again. There it is again. Alright, let's slow this thing down a bit, and let's put the gear down. Let's get below 250. You'll be able to hear the gear doors open, the gear drop, and then gear doors snap shut again. It's pretty awesome. Well, on the takeoff you'll hear them snap shut again, but... Alright, we're almost there. 270. Accelerate this a little bit. 250. Gears come down. Feel the turbulence, feel the rumbling, and all this is selectable for how strong any of the sensations are. But it has added a new level of immersion into the simulator, and I don't know how I could play without it. When it fails, I'm kind of disappointed because it's just way too smooth. All right, let's bring the gear back up. Should be able to hear the clunks from the gear and then the doors following. Or maybe not. You probably heard some of it, but anyway. So I do recommend getting one of those butt kickers, and I have it down inside of my ejection seat, and that's probably the best spot for it. So that's the end of the updates here. This is Quincy, and thanks for tuning in. Got a little bit long-winded and covered quite a few little things as I continue building this simulator, and I'm having so much fun doing it, and I have even more fun flying it with my squadron mates. So take it easy, guys.